The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast. Stick around. What is going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to the Armed Citizen Podcast Live. It is episode number 167. We are live, as always, on YouTube, and for the last, few weeks or so, we've been live on Facebook as well. So welcome to our Facebook crowd if you're over there. If you're out there, go ahead and let us know. Say something in the side chat. We don't know you're out there unless you say something. If you're new to the channel, new to the show, let us know where you're from. We'll get you a shout out, and hopefully we don't make you any dumber than you already are, but I cannot guarantee that. We are taking in call-ins or text questions. You can text those to the number down below. It is the Ghost Tactical Hotline presented by our good friends Rod Shelley Gates at the Gun Cleaners. That number is 530-364-4678. We also want to let you know that the Veteran Crisis Hotline is always out there. If you're out there, even if you're not a veteran, if you need help, make sure that you know that there's someone out there always to talk to. And that number is 1-800-273-8255. And this episode is brought to you by the United States Marine Corps. Please find out more information at www.marines.com. I'm going to bring in the panel right now. We've got one or two more that might be joining us, but we're going to talk a little bit tonight about training. Why is it so important? Hold on, there's a text message, and he said he's backstage. And I don't see you backstage, Rob says. I don't see you, buddy. I'm going to send him a text real quick and see if I can figure out. Well, I don't have my phone, so stand by. I think he got the wrong link. He said he's in the backstage, but he is not backstage. But we're going to talk about training, why it's so important. And then some of you guys might have seen a post on a couple different of the social medias out there about the Tier 9 operators, and a bunch of people have asked what it is. We're going to discuss that. It's a multi-layered thing that's going to be there he is. Yeah, there he is. He says, I'm backstage. Like, no, you're not. So, reboot. So let's go ahead and introduce everybody from Arizona. We've got Mr. Big Kid. What's going on, man?
Hey, everybody. How's it going? Thanks for having me, Ghost.
You got it, man. And from the great state of Texas, the tactical leprechaun himself. What's up, Clove? He's muted. He may not realize.
I can find the mute button here. Good.
Yeah. Gravy is good, by the way. It is good.
Depends on brown gravy, white gravy.
Depends on what I'm eating.
Red eye gravy. Yeah.
Red eye gravy is pretty good too. Yeah. Yeah. You doing all right?
Yeah. Not bad.
Good. And I'm done trying to keep up where the hell he is. I don't know if he's in the Western headquarters, the Eastern in between. There's no telling. From places unknown, from ICE training and the Personal Defense Network, we have the one. I'm trying to blow you up, man. I'm your hype man. The only, and I love the T-shirt, by the way. Rob Pincus, what's up, Robbie?
Hey, yeah, I am in Colorado. I'm in Denver. Said some of Denver's finest. I don't know if that was fire or police. Somebody's driving by, red and blue. So, but I'm not here. And this is the new Walks Talk America shirt. I think I literally just got the package open today. Sedini's been wearing it for a couple weeks, and he has trouble finding me with where to mail the shirts as well. So.
I mean, it's what it is. It was some point, I daily check in to see the map of for where the plane's flying to. So, who knows? I do like that.
It's a tricky week because I went back to the East Coast, but I never quite made it back to the Eastern headquarters because I went to the Epic shoot in.
Oh yeah.
And
how was that? That was Big Daddy Unlimited, right?
yeah, and it was really good. You know, I've heard it was good the last couple of years. I was kind of off and on whether I was going to get to go or not this year, and then finally push came to shove and decided to fly out there with FK Brno, work their range about security. But you know, one of the biggest things about it was it didn't really dawn on me until I was there, because I've been traveling, I've been moving, I've been seeing people, I've been doing all kinds of stuff, but we haven't had an industry event, you know, since SHOT Show. So that part of it was really cool to get to catch up with people who I really only ever see at industry events, essentially people that aren't in the training world, you know, more manufacturing product side. So that was fun.
Yeah, it's been a weird year, and it looks like 2021 could get weirder if you listen to some reports. So, you know, it is what it is. But I know we've only got you for a limited time. You got to jump on with Katie, I think, at the top of the hour. So let's jump right on in. We're going to talk tonight about the importance of training, and we've talked about different things, different styles, and different aspects of training over the last few years on the show, obviously. But with not just with the new fire owners, because there are a lot of new fire owners that may misunderstand what training is. They think that it's going to the range and practicing, but that's not necessarily what training is. We want to talk about the importance of training. I want to bring Rob in real quick, and you and I were discussing some unfortunate headlines that have made it in the last week or two, and that kind of ties into what we're talking about, the importance of training. And it's not just about handling a firearm or getting shots on target. There's a whole lot of things. So when you set out this, I want to start out, there's a quick question to you for ICE and PDN. When you set aside and you start thinking about agendas for training, especially maybe for newer or inexperienced fire owners, what are kind of the things that you sit down and say, we've got to get these topics in on?
Yeah, the thing that I've really been pushing here this year, because of all the talk about the new gun owners, is, you know, what's the most important thing? Because that's the question, right? It's the first thing you teach. What's the most important thing you teach? The most important thing that we have to teach the new gun owners probably isn't, you know, the kind of stuff that we want to talk about, you know, in our group, because even the things we would think of, right? Because somebody buys that gun for defensive use, which, you know, 99.9% of the reason somebody goes out and buys their first gun during a pandemic or civil unrest or whatever, it's not because they want to make an investment or start a new hobby, right? It's like defense. So we have to talk about access, right? Because the number one responsibility of any gun owner is to prevent unauthorized access to their gun, right? The way I see it. And that boils all the way down to preventing somebody who isn't educated in how to use the firearm properly from having access to it without the supervision of somebody who is, right? So the new gun owner is that person, right? And that's I have to convince the new gun owner that when you buy your gun, you need to like prevent yourself from having unauthorized access to it until you get educated around it. And then we got to think about your family and visitors and, you know, dinner parties, holidays are coming up. You're going to have friends over, you're going to have family over with kids, whatever you're doing. These tragedies happen, right? You can't get away from it. They happen with the gun in the gun owner's hand because of negligence or not being trained or panicking or emotion, or they happen in the hands of somebody that the owner did not prevent from getting access to them, like the kids and things like that, or, you know, the mental health issue type stuff, right? Maybe you're the person, because of mental health crises you're dealing with right now, you're the person that shouldn't have a gun, you know, so you're going to do the hold my guns thing. You're going to ask a buddy to take care of the guns. If you're in a state where you can't do private transfers, you're going to do, you know, here's the firing pin, you know, that kind of thing. And so those kinds of training things, you know, it's not how to use cover. It's not how to integrate a weapon light or a handheld light. It's those things come way later, you know, after the foundation. And I think that's incredibly important. Even established gun owners, you know, you made the distinction between training and practice. 100%. You know, if you've had the gun on the shelf in the closet forever, and now you realize, hey, you know what, my kid's about to turn 2, she can climb. I better get that quick access safe. Well, now you have to train. I don't know how loud that is for you guys. Something's going on.
They know you're there.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm here. Something else going on out there. The training is relearning, right? It's relearning how to access your gun. It's relearning. Maybe now you have family members in the house, so you're gonna start thinking about your plan, right? Because you don't want to be improvising that plan under emotional stress, panic, fear, concern, whatever words you want to throw at it. You want to have a plan that you can execute, but you got to make that plan up when you're sober, right? And I'm not just like not drinking, but when you're not emotionally invested in what's about to happen, right? Take a minute and just say, okay, all things being perfect, how would I want this to play out? Well, it probably ends with you not having to shoot somebody, right? And certainly not any of your family members getting hurt, right? And then, maybe no big legal aftermath. Well, if we can get those three things as goals, prioritize them, and then say, okay, how do I make that happen, right? And your plan has to be geared to fulfilling all those goals, not just winning the fight. Because winning the fight might be the easiest part of it. So you look at some of the aftermath. People look at this guy up in Wisconsin, right? Kyle. He won his fight, but he's
got a long battle ahead of him. Yeah, he's got a long battle ahead of him.
So I don't want to monopolize all this because I do want to interact with other guys. Hey, other guys. They don't do videos, so I'm not even sure if they're there. Like, all I see is logo.
I'm pretty sure Clover's asleep. I can't guarantee it. I'm pretty sure that Clover's asleep.
I'm not asleep. I'm not asleep. And no, my camera, actually, I don't turn it on usually when I'm a guest anyway, but it took a dive yesterday before I went live on my show. So I got to figure out what's wrong with it eventually.
Well, I want to bring Clover in real quick and get you into it about and talk about, you did you've done a lot of training over your lifetime with the youngsters. And when you start getting youngsters involved, is safety kind of, obviously safety is the first thing we always think about, but it's safety where you start from without even handling the gun. Do you go into the safety procedures without touching a handgun at first?
So no.
Okay.
And I don't know what translates over from youth to adult. There's facets of both that are unique. In some regards, I think that when you're talking about training, coaching, instruction with other adults, it is more difficult because a lot of times they've already developed bad habits. If you're not dealing with that really green, brand new person, they've already developed bad habits. They've already developed a mindset of they already know what to do. And when you're dealing with youth, they're coming into it, with a mindset and everything of wanting to learn and, all of that kind of thing. They're more open. Most of them realize that they don't know as much as they want to know. And for them, I think it's at least maybe at first a lot more fun. Sure. So I don't know if this translates with adults or not. I don't know that I would approach it the same way with adults. And I got to think back to the times I've actually worked with adults, because occasionally I have worked with parents and stuff like that. But yeah, you've got to get something in their hands, something tangible, touch, feel, smell, right off the bat. Now, does that mean that you make it clear in front of them? You show them, even if it's quickly, the process of all of that before you hand it off to them. And then you say, okay, manipulate this part that, then you show them while their hands are on that firearm, you show them the different things. You know what I mean? But it's in their hands. They're holding it. It's a tangible thing. It's not just a diagram on a PowerPoint presentation. It's not just, something that you're holding up in front of a class.
Something interactive, whether it's what Rob is showing right there, or fruits of some kind, tannerite. It sounds crazy, but tannerite's a great one. But something as simple as what Rob's showing right there is something that can do the job very easily. You're pew, you're muted. No, but something you said earlier is something that kind of was up my alley is, before joining the Marine Corps, I had shot literally like a 22 rifle, maybe like a half a dozen times over my lifetime at buddies' ranches or whatever, shooting whatever, cans or whatever. So I really had zero experience ever shooting anything. And I get to the Marine Corps and I'm nervous when we get up there to second phase, because I had never shot anything like an M16 or anything. I was like, I was scared a little bit, but they enjoyed that because they said that most of the people, and it came out to be true, they said that most of the people that came here with previous extensive firearm experience are not going to qualify as high as someone that has zero experiences. We're going to teach you the right, or not the right way. We're going to teach you the Marine Corps way from the beginning. the people that come in with experience forever, like you said, they've got their own habits, whether they're good or bad, whatever. And maybe the ego goes into, I don't need you teaching me how to shoot or whatever. Sure enough, yeah, not to a T, but most of the people that had extensive experience didn't qualify as high as someone like myself who, had really never shot anything like that before. So I think there is something to be said about that. Bringing in Big Kid here, and I know that you said you're going to come in here with a little different perspective and all of that. When you hear the word training, what's the first thing you think of?
I think before I got really huge into firearms, training to me was just how to use a firearm. It wasn't so much how in depth it really is, especially now that I'm so immersed in this community. It's a lot more than just how to use your firearm. How can you use your firearm under stress? How fast can you get to it? There's a lot involved in it, especially the tactical training. I'm starting to teach my son how to shoot. He's 5. So it's a whole lot different than, teaching an adult or somebody. He doesn't have the attention that I would say. Let me rephrase. He doesn't have the right type of attention to listen to commands and understand the seriousness and how critical an accident can be. So we're starting with something like a Nerf gun. And I have a sock. I put it on his belt so it's like a holster. And we're teaching him things like don't point it at people. And then I'll point to the invisible dinosaur on the wall. I'm like, get it. So stuff like that. So I guess training really comes, it means something different to everybody, I guess.
Yeah. One of the coolest, I don't know, I'm sure you guys have seen it. It was a pretty popular video, maybe a couple years ago, but it was a dude at home with like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid. And he was teaching his kid how to clear the house, but with a Nerf gun.
Nice.
And the kid was walking around with a little Nerf gun, but he had like trigger discipline. He was, going low ready when he needed to. And it was perfect. But you could tell they had done that a lot, but it was with a Nerf gun. And he was a 4-year-old. So he's not going to have him rolling with, an AR pistol or anything, but he had a little Nerf gun. But it was perfect. His technique was unbelievable. And like I said, that finger off the trigger and keep it in low ready when needed to. And they were doing 2-man room clearing techniques. And it was awesome to watch this dude and his 4-year-old kid. And they were both rocking Nerf guns. I think the dad was like, hey, if you're going to rock one, then I'm going to do one too. But it was really, really cool. And it's something as simple as a Nerf gun, or like Rob was holding up a water pistol earlier. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do that doesn't even touch on the subject of training, but it is training. So I want to bring Rob back and say that, we were talking before, we were texting back and forth about some stories, and one of them was, all of them are tragic, but there was one that I saw about a week or so ago, and you sent me the thing also, but it was about a man that unfortunately shot his wife, who was pregnant, thinking that she was an intruder. And I know that there was something about that you wanted to kind of bring into the topic tonight, but is that because that he was probably lack of training, or do you think he freaked out? Or, there's so many facets of training that what it does for you, but it also makes you maybe slow down and think. But what part of that do you think that if you said, man, if I could have had 10 minutes with this guy or an hour with this guy, I might have been able to prevent this? What is something that you saw in that story that really scared you about it?
Well, I'm going to put a link, because I'm not going to do obviously an hour long here, but I'm going to put a link in the comments before I jump on with KD. Maybe you can drop it in there. The deal I did with Noir. So Noir reached out to me last week after he saw that same headline and said, hey man, can you come on the show? Because you're an instructor. I'm not. Like, what do you tell people? Kind of the same question you just asked. And we went over about 40 minutes worth of concepts and techniques. I acted some stuff out, had some props and things like that. The most important thing here is that overwhelmingly, when I look at these situations, when I see all the details, when I talk to the people that are involved in them, or family members, extended family members, unfortunately, I've talked to a lot of, when I read the news reports, I see the statements that are made, it becomes really clear to me that overwhelmingly, the person who's the good guy with the gun has this impression that their job was to go find the bad guy. and to, stop the threat, as opposed to determine where their family members are, keep their family members safe, and get them into a safer area if they can barricade, and all along the way be prepared to defend themselves or their family from a threat. And you would say, well, Rob, same thing, except if you prioritize, go back to what I said before, if you prioritize the finding the bad guy, what happens? You're hunting, right? And I don't care how much training you have, right? All the studies for science, everybody's done the studies. There's this concept that's referred to politely as trigger checking, right? Well, trigger checking is putting your finger on a trigger before you've consciously made the decision to shoot after having identified a threat. And the higher level anxiety you have, and it has nothing to do with training. You study people have had a lot of training and no training. The higher the level of anxiety, right? The more you're anticipating the need to shoot. Take those two factors, the more likely you are to do two things. One, start moving your finger to the trigger. Two, start moving the gun into a shooting position. So there are physical, mechanical things. We say, like, I'm gonna grab a SIRT pistol. Like, for example, we don't say just keep your finger off the trigger. We say put your finger somewhere positive, right? Whether it's the takedown or the seam of the slide in the frame, or a pin, or you put a piece of skate tape there or something. Put something there so you can feel it, right? So that you're here on it and you're not just floating around out here in the middle of nowhere, right? And obviously we don't want that thing to be on the trigger guard, that place you put it, because then grasp reflex, if you get startled, your finger could slip in there, right? So we want to be up here on the frame in a solid index. Another thing we do is we talk about having a distinct ready position, right? Not a ready position that you could also shoot from. So yeah, I could shoot from here. I get it, right? But this is my retention shooting position. Then I shoot. Right. I shoot extended. I don't really plan to shoot from here. It's not part of my plan, but I could. I get it. But even on the way out isn't the same as here. So if my forearms are indexed against my body, even one forearm, if I'm using a flashlight, in stool, pointed down, whatever, this is not where my brain says to shoot. So what happens is when I watch people who trained in this kind of a high compressed ready position extensively, when they get into this anxiety mode of anticipating the need to shoot, like in a shoot house or something, the gun starts coming away from their body and then the finger starts moving the trigger, right? So then again, we talk about corners, right? If I'm within 2 arms reach of a corner or doorway, I don't want to have my gun extended where somebody come around and grab it. If I'm extended, I'm more likely to be in a shooting position. I'm more likely to be thinking about shooting. Even in an extended low ready, my finger, again, may go down to that position, and now the gun comes up as I shoot. So you actually want to counterintuitively set yourself up when you know there's family members in the home so that you're not on the edge of shooting, right? You've heard me say it. People obsess over this range performance, sub 1 second draws, split times, all this stuff. It's all contrived, right? Yeah. Your ability to process information, right? To actually identify that person in the house and identify whether that's a threat or not, that takes longer than it does for you to drive the gun out. It takes longer for you than it does to get finger trigger. It takes longer than it does for you to get the gun up to a position. Even from a holster, from a staged position, which people will see in that other video, I'd much rather, like, I'll say it now, like, I will be responsible. Somebody showed me the video of the person who was not able to defend themselves or their family from a high compressed ready or from a staged position, hand on the gun with a flashlight in their hand with their family behind them in a barricade waiting for the bad guy to come around the corner right? Because I don't believe that guy is in a bad situation right now. I really don't. What I think is a bad situation is you don't know where your family is. You got the gun in your hand. And you're running out looking for the guy. The weapon light is your primary light, not as a secondary. And you're searching and clearing. So as cute as the kid with the Nerf gun is in his house, I also, like, what are we really teaching? And what are we showing other families? I mean, is that really what you think is the plan? Is you and your kid are going to clear the house looking for bad guys? I doubt that that's what that guy really thinks. I doubt that's what this kid's advocating for. But we have to be careful about what we celebrate and what we talk about as being fun and what we talk about as being training, right? Mm-hmm. So realistically, I have a 5-year-old, right? I want my 5-year-old to know how to go to the bedroom and lock the door. That's what I need her to know how to do, right? And the stuff we do with her MP5 and all the stuff we do out at the range is fun, but I'm teaching her tactics are find an adult, lock the door, where's the medical kit, how to call 911 if I'm knocked out or if I'm not responding at some point. Like, those are her tactical jobs, right? Yeah. So we have to be really careful about what it is we're trying to do. And I know the comments are going to load up 2 things. Comments load up on these stories. 1, I'll bet he was murdered. He probably murdered her and just made it look like an accident. There's no way. Because I think gun owners don't even want to believe not only could it not happen to them, they don't even want to believe it could happen to a gun owner, that somebody could actually make that mistake and shoot their wife. The other thing that happens in the comments is, Rob's crazy if he thinks I'm going to have my gun in my holster when there's someone in my castle. Well, the point is, you don't really know. Just like that guy thought somebody was in his castle, you don't really know. And again, if you're prioritizing not having to shoot someone somewhere in there, then you shouldn't be hunting for the bad guy in the first place. You're hunting for your family and you're hunting for a safe place. And if we could change that paradigm, we'd see a lot less of this, I really believe.
I think a lot of it comes down, and I'll bring Big Kid and Clover in. They can comment on what you just said, but before they do, I want to comment. I think a lot of it comes down to is kind of ego to an extent. People put a gun on and they feel like they're bigger, tougher, they are something different. And you don't carry a gun because you're going out looking for that high noon showdown. You don't go looking for a reason to use it. And it's such a cliche statement, but the greatest statement that you can ever hear is I have it and I hope I never need it, instead of not having it and needing it. You don't want to ever use it. But I think that there are, and there are people out there, and I've said this before, there are people that may have that mentality. There are people who carry every day that have a concealed carry license and know that they're mentally not ready to take that shot. And I've said, and I've gotten bashed, for it, but I'd rather them not carry. If you're not mentally ready to take that shot, then chances are, if you do take that shot, you're not going to do what you think you're going to do. You're going to hurt somebody else. You're going to put a lot more people in danger than anything. So if you have a gun and you're thinking about carrying, but you don't know if you're mentally ready or able to take that shot, it's simple. You can carry, just, don't use it or don't carry at that point. And I know it's going to piss a lot of people off, but if that comes back to training, if you don't have the repetitions and you don't have the skill sets and you haven't been taught the ways of drawing under pressure with an accelerated heart rate, with adrenaline pumping, you can shoot at paper all day long. But if you have no idea what it's like shooting with an accelerated heart rate, and you don't know what your holds are, you don't know what everything, it's completely different. So that's kind of what we're talking about. Clover, Mr. Big Kid, you guys, either one of you have anything you want to bring up from what Rob was saying? No. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Yes. Okay, I agree with you. I don't think you should be hunting for anybody that breaks into your house. My first priority is to gather my family and get somewhere safe. I don't think I have the confidence to keep something in my holster either. However, I do think I would. I've never been in a situation, so I don't know. And I think we can all, well, I'm not going to say we can all say that. I don't know how I'd react if, someone broke into the house. I have heard a bump.
None of us have to figure that out. Hopefully none of us have to know that, It's just, It is true.
I've heard a bump in the night, so I've made sure everything's safe before. Of course, first thing I do is check on my kid, make sure he's in bed so I don't take any bad shots I shouldn't take, I guess. Sounds horrible, but I guess it's important to know where your family is at all times and who could possibly be in your house.
Right. No, I think a lot of it comes down to, and I'll give you an example. My wife, not a gun person, doesn't want to touch a gun, will not fire one. Even she doesn't want to learn how to manipulate one in case shit happens. It's just, so kind of like what Rob was saying, her job is okay, something happens, you get into our closet in the corner, take your phone with you, call 911. That's your job. You're out of the way. If I have to kind of stay around the corner there and kind of wait to see if anyone walks through that door, then so be it. But her job is not to join in on the fight. It is not to be a part of anything. It's to go hide, get in the closet with your phone, call 911 and talk them through what's going on. And as long as you have a plan, it doesn't matter who's involved with what. It's the plan. Clover, I know you said you were trying to scramble off mute as well. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, the situation that you were talking about there, Did I miss something, or was it a situation where he didn't realize his wife was?
So what it was, I think it was in
What's
Florida. Well, so he thought someone was in the house, thought it was an intruder,
Yeah.
took a shot her in the chest.
So we don't know what
The
he thought.
6-month-old baby. It saved the baby. What's that?
So we don't know what his thoughts were with where he thought his wife was.
No, I heard about this about a week ago, probably.
Yeah.
Was when I first heard about it. And to this day, I haven't heard anything, an interview from him or anything like that. No, I personally don't know.
So I've always had a complex that my grandmother said my grandfather suffered from the same thing and called it the rooster complex. All the hens have to be in the hen house, right? And so we had curfew, and there was curfew for a reason. And if you were to break curfew, let's say that, well, breaking curfew, totally different story, I guess. But let's say that you were supposed to spend a night at a friend's house. Something went wrong. It was after curfew, and you were coming home. You call first and say, "Hey, I'm coming home."
Sure.
And part of that reason and part of the danger and what was talked about with sneaking out of the house and trying to sneak back in is exactly what we're talking about here. Dad does not know who's jimmying the window open or the door or whatever. You're putting yourself in a really serious situation. It's above and beyond. You're going to get grounded for coming in late. It's a whole new world when you're talking about potentially being recognized as somebody trying to break in. And so that's the way we approach that. So communication. And when I hear that story, I'm thinking, where was the communication here? I mean, you hear something, you get up. If your wife's not in the bed, then my first thought is going to be she's getting a midnight snack in the kitchen, or she tripped over something in the kids' room, checking on them in the middle of the night. Maybe they coughed or woke up crying or whatever the case may be, right? My mind's not going to immediately go to intruder. There's going to be a process. You know what I mean? And so that's what worries me is the communication aspect, and maybe where was his mind. And I think that's part of what Rob was speaking to as well, was just this process that you go through. You were talking about it with your plan. That's basically a process, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And my daughter, when she was living at home, and going in and out, we had words. Like if I would to say something, she kind of knew what to answer to let us know that it was her and all that. Whether or not you do safe words or whatever, it's up to you, but how your family works that. But yeah, I get the sentiment is before you go hunting for an intruder, assess the situation, assess, like and Rob was saying, who's in my house that's supposed to be in my house, who's not currently where they're supposed to be. Could that be the person who's up getting some popcorn or a soda or whatever? And I don't know the whole story. I don't know if she was coming home from work or what, but it is kind of interesting that you said that he didn't notice that his wife wasn't in bed. And that would have been the first thing that I'm looking for, is if my wife's not in bed, I'm thinking, where is she? That's probably but once again, we don't know where we don't know exactly.
Well, maybe she worked an odd shift, or maybe
we don't know. Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, maybe she worked overnight or something like that, and she got off early. But that's where the communication comes into play. Is
hey, I got up early, I'm heading home.
Maybe it's because I live in the middle of nowhere, and so it's a drive. And so most of the time, for the sake of, like my wife gets off early or gets off, period. Most of the time there's a text or a call regardless. And it's like I'm headed home in case you need to pick up milk or bread or eggs or obviously anything like that. And also, if she's not home in a few minutes, I know that she had a flat, the car broke down, she submerged her car in a creek, which has happened. Whatever. I mean, you never know, right? But she's not home, and I need to be headed that way, her normal path that she drives, or a couple of normal paths, and look for it, right? So it's that communication. So even if it was a shift work issue or something like that, that's such a foreign, I mean, it's horrible. And the first thing that comes to my mind is that could have been prevented so many different ways and so easily.
Yeah. And that's what's frustrating when you hear something like that, is there's 100 different things that could have prevented that tragic incident happening. So, I want to kind of go next into the next question and bring Rob back in real quick. 'Cause like I said, I know we're pressed on time with you, but I want to kind of talk about when you start hearing about, and this is why I want to bring up a comment that was out here. And Bernie was out there, said that his dad was a farm instructor along with his sister, and he wouldn't pass people for concealed carry licenses if they thought that they were unsafe. And this is something that I have a tendency to believe and agree with to a certain extent that a lot of people don't. But then he says training in order to get their certificate. Now, I don't know if that means training to get a certificate for the training class or for your concealed carry. And I know that the blanket statement of you should get training before you're allowed to carry is a very unpopular one. But I'm not against some sort of a state saying, look, we're a shall issue state, but we want you to at least take a class. Bring that with you, and you're going to get your concealed carry permit. I know that that's going down a slippery slope with legislative training and all that. We don't want to legislate training, but there's a part of me that sits there and says, I've personally seen people in classes that should never be handling a firearm that literally would flag everyone, and nothing was said because the instructor was making their money and and it's like, no. That person shouldn't be carrying right now. That person shouldn't even have a firearm in their hands if you're not going to deal with them. And I finally had it. I just walked away at one point. I was like, I'm not going to put myself or my daughter in a situation where this lady over here bought a gun yesterday, is coming to class today, and has not been shown a thing on how to handle it. And, so when you see people like that, when they come to class, and I'm sure you've seen over your years some very unsafe handling of firearms, do you take them away from them and start from the scratch, or how do you handle someone who is seemingly unsafe with the handling of that firearm?
This is where it's really convenient for me to not teach concealed carry permit classes, because I have to split brain on this. Right. Like you even said at one point, I think you're talking all around the idea of mandatory training, right? And you said something about, should be before they should be allowed to, as opposed to what I would use, the words I would use was just simply before they should, right? So I believe in shall not be infringed. I believe in what we call constitutional carry or permitless carry. Mm-hmm. I believe in the concept of today, if you can legally own the gun, you should be allowed to legally carry the gun, right? And I believe that because all gun control laws essentially are infringements, the way that we currently deal with that situation where we're restricted, or there's hoops we have to jump through before we can exercise our rights when we haven't done anything wrong yet, unlike every other right that we've got in the Constitution, where we just can do it until we screw up. I would say that yes, if you can legally own a gun, you should be able to legally carry the gun. And by the way, you should be able to legally own a gun unless you've proven that you should have that right restricted. Just like you'd be in jail, you lose your right to freedom, maybe the death penalty, your right to life if you're bad enough, right? So having said all that as the disclaimer, I believe that absolutely people should get the training, but I think it should be up to us, right? I don't think we need someone else to legislate.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. That's what I don't want to legislate training. Yeah, absolutely.
But we have these words like allowed, and we have to be really careful with them, right? So I put in the links, I put gunrights.info because all the position statements from Second Amendment organization, which I'm the vice president of, all the position statements are there because I don't want, to mishear, to be misheard or to be misquoted. I absolutely, as a guy who makes my living for the last 20 years on training revenue, I don't want to make money off of mandatory training, right? I'm not jumping into a government-run program that says, hey, you have to have training and we want you to help us write it. Because first of all, it wouldn't even be constitutional, because I promise you that the amount of training I would say, well, here's what I think the minimum is before you should go out the house with a gun at the same neighborhood that my daughter's in. That's going to be thousands of dollars right? And scores of hours worth of training. And a lot of it's going to have nothing to do with shooting, but it's also going to have to do with shooting. So I've never seen, like I did 4 hours in front of a camera yesterday for a documentary, a gun rights history documentary being made. And this is one of the areas we talked about, right? And it's a common question. Well, you advocate training, you advocate responsibility, you provide training. Why wouldn't you think it's a good idea to have mandatory training? Well, because the Constitution, now let's move on. So that's why it's not mandatory, but highly recommended. And we should be able to peer pressure, right, everybody into saying, are you kidding me? What do you mean you don't have it? Say, I had to tell a guy on the internet the other day, like he says, I work in a gun shop. I like what you're saying, but we don't have safes. So do you have like links I can? First of all, it's almost negligent to have a gun shop that doesn't sell quick access safes. If you're selling guns to people for the purpose of home defense, and you're not also opening up that revenue stream to sell a $20 mechanical, twist the thing, or a $50 push the button, or $100 RFID, or whatever, $300 biometric, if you're not also selling those things, because they don't take up that much floor space. If you've got all those holsters that people don't need, if you've got Uncle Mike's number 5s on the shelf, get rid of those and put a quick access safe display up. Because that, I don't even get it, right? So the answer to your question, I will literally now, because when they get to me, they've already got their permits or whatever. They're like, if they're in my class, it's considered an advanced class, even though I would say this is where you should start, right? They come into my class, if they're there, I don't know, this year is a weird year, but let's say for the last decade, I'm sure that there have been between 3 and 7 times during each year that I have to take somebody's gun, I will disassemble it. This is after a lot of hoops and several rings talks. This was probably like 3 or 4 and a half, maybe it's the end of the day. I will take their gun apart and I will say in front of everybody, listen, I don't think you should carry a gun in public. I don't even think you should load this gun until you get back into a refresher class. You spend more time getting comfortable with it. You get more confident with it. I'm giving it back to you in pieces in front of all of these people. And your family can sue me if ISIS shows up while you're at the mall and kills you. Because I think you're more dangerous to America with a gun in your hands right now than ISIS is. So please don't load it, right? And I'm not even kidding, really, because that's the problem, is if someone comes into my class and under that structure and that tutelage and the coaching and the peers and the examples and everything that's going on, they still can't comfortably and confidently operate the gun, then I want to be really super clear with them that based on a couple of decades in this community and another decade before that as exclusively as a student, and then 20 years teaching and learning and evolving in thousands of classes and thousands of students, it's going to mean something if I'm telling you, really, man, you're not ready. You're really not ready. And if I'm wrong, so be it. But at the same time, I need to do that so I can put my head on the pillow at night. And that doesn't mean that the government comes in. I don't call the police and say, hey, you better come grab this guy's guns. I just say, it's on you. But I want witnesses saying, hey, this is what I'm telling you. For what it's worth, you paid me. You showed up. You respect my opinion. Here's my opinion.
That's right. Clover, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. So what to unpack with that? First, I want to talk about the license to carry here in Texas a little bit. And at the time that I first got mine, it was the CHL. It was a concealed handgun license. Mm-hmm. And went through all the classroom training, get out to the range. And there was a lady, didn't know this till we got out to the range, but literally had bought her handgun the day before and a box of ammunition. Mm-hmm. And hadn't even opened the box, had never touched a firearm. And so I took it upon myself, and this is when I first got my CHL. Of course, I had been around firearms my entire life at that point, but I took it upon myself to wait to shoot at the very end of the qualification so that I could spend time with her going through loading, manipulation, other things, and then shoot beside her on the line. Because obviously the instructor had to do the qualification, right? He couldn't pull off to try to do that. So with that being said, another element of that is most of the license to carry, which is what we have in Texas now, trainers out there, they offer most, not all, most offer and really do push and promote that you take their basic handgun course. And they're very, very cheap and usually very, very short courses. Maybe a couple of hours, maybe 15 or 20 bucks, right? And they really push, especially, if you don't have any experience, that you take that before you take their license to carry. So again, it's a voluntary thing. They offer it, they promote it. If people do it, great, but they don't turn people away if they don't. Now, when I look back on me being much younger at that time with a much older lady and kind of showing her the ropes and all that kind of stuff, it dawns on me, and it's something that I talk about all the time. And, I love the trainers, the real life hardened trainers that we have out there. I certainly don't put myself in anywhere near category as Rob and a lot of the other ones, and been watching Rob's stuff for years. Got VHS tapes with Rob on them. That's how.
Yeah, he's old as hell, man. He's old.
And so no offense to those guys, but as lifelong firearm owners who are trained, who are competent, who have the chops, have what it takes, I think it falls on us a lot of times to help out and quote unquote train, because and I say quote unquote because I think we need to soften the language a little bit. It makes me real uncomfortable, and this, Ghost, when we start talking about training and let's go train and let's go, because most people where I live, they think when you say I'm going to a training class, they think you've got an AR-15 and a Glock 19 and you're flipping over the hood of a Jeep and crawling underneath cars and barbed wire and crazy crap like that. That's where they go with it.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
That's where they go with it. So we've got to soften the language back from that, and training could be as simple as that new firearm owner that is a coworker, and you're like, let's go to the range this weekend. What do you say? Right? You go out there, you observe, you help them through, you walk things through, like we talked about when we first kicked this off. We make it safe, we make it fun.
Yep.
Right? And we give them some fundamentals. And maybe in making it safe and making it fun and giving them some fundamental help, maybe we make them realize that they do need to go see somebody for training like Rob or, somebody that is an established training center. But at that point, we've kind of pushed them that way in a safe, fun way, instead of wagging the finger and going, oh, you don't need to carry until you get to go get this training, because I don't see that as a proper approach.
Yeah. Steve, you got anything you want to add real quick?
Yeah, to be honest, I guess I will say I love taking new shooters out to the desert to go shooting. My wife, she's a teacher, an elementary school teacher, and there's a couple of people that were really interested. It's very taboo for them. So they were legitimately afraid to go, but they wanted to. It's like a fear and an excitement they were having. So I brought them to the desert. I brought some, my P22. I brought a 22 rifle, things that were really easy to shoot, just to teach them that they're not that scary. They went from shaking uncontrollably when they're holding this to firing the shots. And by the end of the day, they were having fun shooting 12 gauge slugs out of the shotgun. So
that's a big jump from 22 to 12 gauge slug.
Plenty of warning and plenty of progression too. We got to try the infamous scary AR-15, that they hear so much about, and they had fun with it. So I think a lot of it is just people don't know too. So
yeah, I want to bring up something that Budget had said out there. And I thought this is interesting. He says, I don't think that this is about training for concealed carry permits. Don't think it should be mandatory, but training should be rewarded. Perhaps the state should make the training a tax write-off for concealed carriers who voluntarily get it. I think that's something like that is a heck of an idea. Reward them for going to, instead of making it mandatory, reward them for doing that.
Unless you live in a state that doesn't have state income tax, and then you're screwed.
Okay, well, maybe you get your concealed carry permit for free,
or renewed
license for free or something. What do you guys think of something like that?
Interesting approach.
I think it's a fantastic idea.
Maybe like Arkansas has. Maybe depending on how much training you log in a year, or in a not a year, but what am I thinking? In a renewal cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how much training you acquire in a renewal cycle, maybe there's something like Arkansas to where there's some type of enhanced
license. Sure.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rob, you were going to jump in. What do you think, bud?
I hesitate from the political side to have gun owners, responsible gun owners, advocates, leaders in the community suggesting that there's some legitimacy to any scheme where the government set up the bar for what is okay for you. Because here's one of the problems. I've seen, how many people have we all seen? Because we know there isn't an NRA basic pistol or a USCCA DSF or state Texas license to carry. There's not one of those instructors that's not going to come on here and say, I tell everybody, this isn't even really training. You got to get the advanced training. This is just to get your permit. We know that, right? Okay, check that box. We also know that some huge percentage of the people that are in that class are going to get that piece of plastic from the government that says they are now certified or they've got their training, they got their certificate. They're going to think that means something, and they're going to put it on their shelf, and then it doesn't become a priority. So again, I think until we change the behavior, right, until we change the mindset, because here, I'll give you an example. I had a friend in Florida a month and a half ago, want to get her permit. She is an active duty, high-ranking active duty officer in the military, graduated from one of the academies, combat experience, all that stuff. Well, in Florida, all she has to do is take her, active dutiness in and just say, hey, here I am, I want to get a permit. And you can't. My advice was, don't. You just take the class, because the class in Florida that I recommended she takes actually does cover like a lot of the laws, which may or may not be right. We may not agree with them, but where you can carry, how you can carry, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing about it is you're also going to go out there in a completely different context than anything you've ever done in the military and shoot a handgun in a context that I know the instructor that is congruent with your intended use of that handgun in a public space, which isn't the same as a combat environment, which isn't the same as military qualifications, which isn't the same as anything else you've done over the last 20-something years. And it's important that you acknowledge that and that you kind of like respect the process of it. So even to go as far as to say that to somebody, like a lot of places, your hunter's your hunter safety card or your DD-214, if you're a veteran, will get you a permit in a lot of states. And while I understand that we want this all to be, yes, go get your permit. Again, if you're in a constitutional carry state, there's 16 of them. The first place I could carry was Vermont in 1990, and it was the only constitutional carry state. And I could carry when I moved up there, right? So I get it, and I say take advantage of it. But while you're taking advantage of the cheapest, easiest, fastest way for you to get the little card from the government, don't ever think that somehow means that you don't have to train, because the government's wrong when they say the NRA basic pistol course is an acceptable course to carry out in public. When Texas says you're not allowed or supposed to teach someone how to shoot, you're just there to evaluate their shooting during live fire qual. Right?
That's what it is in Arkansas as well.
Arkansas the same way. So I get it, but that's the lowest common denominator government mandate that's unconstitutional. First, second, and third.
We're a constitutional carry state, but if you want to get the permit, and I get the permit because I travel a lot and all of that. But yeah, you go there, I think you shoot like 6 shots, and if you hit this paper plate, you're good.
Nick's bypass is nice too. A lot of people get it.
Right. There's all kinds of good reasons to jump through these hoops. I get it, right? But we have to remember they are
saying.
And I gotta jump out and jump on.
Thank you for coming on. Do you want to plug PDN, ICE, anything real quick?
All that. Walk the Talk America, WTTA.org. And, you guys keep doing great stuff. I'll check out the comments and see what you guys talk about after I leave. Have a good night, man.
Be safe.
Good talking to you, Rob.
And I say, absolutely, I hear what he's saying. But, if we're going to talk about training per se, and we want to talk about someone encouraging people to go get training, I do like the idea of if the government is going to be involved, and I do understand where Rob's coming from, but if the government's going to, in any way, shape, or form, I do like it being a positive thing instead of you have to go get training. I think if you do go get training, there's some incentives for you. I do like that, because I think that is saying, the government saying, if you're going to carry, you don't have to get training to be in Arkansas to get your license. You don't even have to have a license to carry anymore. But if you go get training, there are some positive things. I think that's a good thing. What do you guys think, Kid? I want to start with you, Steve. Or Glover, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, because I've been doing a lot of homework on stuff here in Texas the last couple of days, especially. And there's some quote unquote anti-gun bills. I'll go over those in the video that comes out soon. That when you read them, they're stupid to me. They're insignificant. But from a liberty standpoint, yes, they're anti-liberty, anti-freedom bills. I get it. So I get what you're saying, that if it's a positive thing, but positive thing from whose perspective, and depending on who has the power to wield that legislation, is the perspective going to always remain the same? We're arguing over the Constitution meaning one thing, and somebody else says it means something entirely different. So obviously, at some point, people lost the frame of reference of the founders, right? So at what point does somebody lose the frame of reference when that legislation or whatever is drafted, and then use it as an it's no longer a good thing, it's a bad thing, because they flipped it on its head.
Same legislation as we're going to make it an incentive now, but 3 years later, when you're not really watching, we're going to make it mandatory.
Now it's a requirement. Yeah, we have such a response from it as an incentive that, since people, because they're going to see that, they'll put it out there as an incentive, and then a lot of people will do it, and they're going to go, oh, people like this, so if they like it and they're doing it anyway, let's just make it mandatory. And then that may not seem like a big deal because a lot of people are doing it. But now that it's mandatory, they up the requirements. They change the requirements, and they're completely unobtainable.
And then also prices for those classes go out of roof because now it's mandatory.
It's that where Rob is coming from is that, no matter how insignificant of an infringement on a liberty it might be, and no matter how the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So no matter what the original intent, we talk about that with the founders all the time in the Constitution, no matter what the original intent is, if it's an infringement on liberty, it's an infringement on liberty. And at some point you have to draw a line.
Absolutely. Steve, did you want to say something?
It's amazing. I don't know how I was able to agree with all of you guys at the same time with everything you were saying. It's like, gosh.
There's no right answer, and it's just this is just what I love about this is stuff that, like we said, it could be life changing. It could be, you could save lives doing this, but how much of it do you want to make mandatory? I get the whole argument there.
Yeah, the slippery slope thing. Absolutely. I was agreeing. I think it's awesome to find a way to incentivize training and make people want to actually go get that training. But when you're talking about any kind of laws that you're adding, or whether it's not a law, incentives, I don't know how you want to word it, but man, I was all for it when we started talking about this. But yeah, I would hate for anything more to happen, or something to happen overnight.
Let me propose something a little different. We're talking about incentives, right? Where's the industry in all of this, right?
That's a
gun shops, wholesalers, retailers, manufacturers. What if there was some type of a discount for ammunition, for some type of product? What if there was a certain product line that you could only get if you
a mail-in rebate per se? You get $50 off, or if you go take a 6 hour or a training class, you mail this back into Smith & Wesson, and we're going to give you $50 off your last handgun, or whatever that would be.
Yeah, toward the purchase of, right? We'll take your training costs, whatever it is, and we'll put that toward the purchase of, right? Whatever. So then they turn around. First of all, that could be set up, and that could be a write-off, first of all, for said company. And then they could turn around, and if you're buying that firearm from a local dealer, then that may or may not cover the entire cost from the local dealer. So the local dealer is getting business. I mean, it's almost a situation where everybody wins, and you're promoting training at the same time.
Yeah, one box or one free box, 9mm, $50 value.
Well, today it is. Sure.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's and the great thing about this is the discussion about training, and I think that ultimately it comes down to, I can't remember who it was earlier, someone in the room, I think it was Clover, said that we not change the way we use the word training, and And I agree. When you hear training, I think most people think I'm going to go learn how to kick a door down and be some high speed, low drag operator. And no, it's something as simple as learning how to draw effectively from a concealment garment. It's so funny that people. I'm sorry, the dog's having a good time in the office, but you go to these classes and you see a person that when they shoot the gun, everything's great. That they're good tight groupings, their mechanics are good, they're solid all the way through, everything's good to go. And then you come to the point where, okay, we're going to do some dry fire exercises from the draw, and you see their mechanics from the draw, especially with a concealment garment. And you're just like, oh my good God. Oh, she's fine. She's just having fun. But it's interesting. So I think that the word training, maybe we should start calling it instruction, or find, I want to go get some instruction instead of training.
I like education, but yeah.
Education. Yeah. Just using different terminology could really maybe help someone understand that we're not asking you to go be an operator. We're asking you to learn how to handle that gun properly. I've been working with a lady the last few weeks that's new to firearms. She went to a handgun 101, our basic handgun class, before she came to me with an instructor that I know, and didn't learn anything. She was there for 8 hours and pulled the trigger 3 times. When she left, she didn't know how to load a magazine. She didn't know how to rack a slide. She didn't know how to do any of that. Basically, the instructor just had them out there for 6 hours talking, went to the range. They pulled up 2 or 3 triggers. And basically what they did is they went and loaded it for them. Say, okay, here's a gun. Go ahead and shoot that target over there. And they shot 3 times and left. So I'm literally sitting there teaching her how to, from day one, from step 1, how to properly hold a gun, how to load a magazine, not load it into the gun, how to load a magazine. And it's like, there are people out there that are giving instruction that give really good instructors really bad names. That's what worries me. John C. out there, I think, is a new one. He says he's from San Bernardino, California. I've been through San Bernardino a lot back in the day. He says we need 5 hours of range time. I don't know if that means to get his the concealed carry permit in California or what, but 5 hours of range time. Like I said, I said at the beginning, I don't want to legislate training, but I think that there's got to be a way, somehow, some way. And I love what you did, Clover, with bringing the industry involved. Instead of doing it the government, the industry should step up and say, if you're going to go and get a training class and get your concealed carry, then we're going to give you a rebate on your next firearm purchase or whatever.
Even if we're talking about a write-off, and the dirty little secret, if nobody out there plays in the write-off world, is you only get a percentage of that anyway, right?
Correct.
So if let's say you go take $100 course or a $500 course, I mean, even if, the industry, whoever it might be, even if they only gave 20, 25, 30%, right? Mm-hmm. That would be equivalent to a tax write-off, because they're obviously not going to give you the entire amount back.
That's correct. Yeah. So this is kind of going to go into the training thing is a great conversation, and this could go on. Yep. Go ahead.
I wanted to stop you because we're talking about the incentive thing right quick, and we're talking about industry. So let's talk about trainers too. You've went and done with a lot of trainers. You may know the answer to this. If Rob's still listening, he may can say something. Do trainers promote a punch card idea of train with us one time, the next time you get 5% off, train with us 2 times, the next time you get 10% off, train with us 3 times, the next time, and every 5th training's free? Or do you know of any trainers that work a system like that? I've never asked any of the trainers I know, so I don't know.
I know a bunch of trainers that do a bunch of different marketing ways, and let's be honest, that's a marketing
or a referral system even.
Sure. I can tell you that there has been a punch card. Let's say they offer basic handgun, advanced handgun, blah, blah, basic rifle, advanced rifle, this, that, and the other. There's like 10 classes. Then I think one of them, you get 5 classes, the 6th one's free.
Mhm.
Okay. I know another one that will say, if you've taken my basic handgun class, then any other handgun class that I offer, you get 25% off of.
Cool.
Now, you don't have to take that basic one to get to the other ones, but if you've taken that basic,
Right.
you're going to get 25% off any other handgun class. If you take the basic rifle class, you'll get 25% off any other rifle class that you take from me. I tell you what, a lot of them do, from my perspective, is they have, let's say, a basic handgun class, okay?
Right.
And in order to take any other of those handgun classes, that basic one's mandatory. Does that make sense? Like, you can't take fighting pistol or advanced pistol or any of that before you take basic handgun, okay? So once they get you to take basic handgun, then it opens up other training avenues for you, and you're also going to get a discount. Some of them have even done the basic handgun class is free if you sign up for another class, but you've got to take this one first, but it's a free class.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So there's all sorts of different things that I know trainers do. And like I said, it's a marketing tool. There's different ways to market. But I would say that the vast majority of people that train that I know have some sort of incentive package for multiple classes, for sure. No doubt about it.
Right.
Pistol whipping 101, Stephen Elder says. Exactly. How to pistol whip someone properly. Most
You
definitely.
got to have a really good revolver for that.
Yeah. Well, so there was I don't know
Or
if
a
you guys,
high point. That works too.
or a high point. Did you guys happen to see the meme or the thing on Instagram? I saw it today. I don't know how long it's been out, but it said like Russian grandma carries, and an old lady like throws down an iPad and wants to step on it and all that. And the old grandma pulls out a gun out of her purse and hands it to the lady. And so she just starts beating the iPad with the grip of the gun. I just thought it was hilarious. It was completely unsafe. I just thought it was hilarious.
I've not seen that one.
Brought that up to my mind. I don't know. My mind works in weird ways. So yeah. But yeah, that kind of transitions into the second part of what we're going to talk about here for the next few minutes. And like I said, I've been getting a lot of questions, and that was kind of what the whole point was. But I put out a post, and this is something that I came up with, and it's a project that it's a multi-layer project, and you might have seen on Instagram or Facebook or Parler or YouTube or wherever I am. A post about the tier 9 operators, and it's the name of it is a joke, because there's a lot of people that the tier 1, you guys hear tier 1, which is Delta and DevGru and all those guys, SEAL Team 6, but it's DevGru, Delta, and
yeah, and the helpful lumps,
Green Berets,
and all of them. Yeah,
we're talking tier 1. We're talking the tip of the spear. And people say tier 1, and all that, but so I made a little joke calling it tier 9, and it was fun. But it's a multi-layer thing. People say, well, what is it? And so I want to talk a little bit about it, because it's something I want to do locally, nationally, and then online as well. And it's kind of, what's up 223. But the start of it is talk about training. And we all know that maybe not Clover, because Clover does not really like the training idea. He's not against it. It's not his gig. It's not his gig. It's not his bag, baby.
right.
It's not. And that's okay. But for those of us that like to train and all that, I get a lot of people says, man, I'd love to train. I can't seem to find the time or whatever. So I came up with this idea locally, and I'm going to start here with 4, 5, or 6 of us that we all shoot together, and Hans out there and Off the X, and hopefully Buck joins, and our local sheriff. And, like I said, 5 or 6 around here locally that like to train, but we do like once a quarter. We pick a training class, and it might be different. One time we're going to take a pistol, next one we take a rifle, and next time we take a first aid or stop the bleed. But we do once a quarter we go to a training class, but we do it together, and we all make sure that the date is good, and we all register because we hold each other accountable for showing up. So I think it's a lot easier to kind of get people into training if they've got buddies that are going to go do it with them. So the first aspect of the Tier 9 operator is to get more training, but to get a fire team of 4 people, or a squad of 8 to 10 or whatever, but you get a group of people that are wanting to go get training, and you go to it together. So once a quarter, 4 times a year, you're going to get this little fire team or whatever, and we're going to go train. We're going to find a class that we're all going to get to. We'll ride over there together. We'll have breakfast together, all that, but do it as a team and hold each other accountable for getting more training. Now, obviously, there are people that don't want to do the training, so that's the aspect of this. But I think that that's part of it is really holding each other accountable. And like I said, I think more people are probably willing to go get training, excuse me, if they have friends. So that's locally. Because now if I can start with 4 and then we get a group of another 4 more people, next thing we know, we have 16 people that are going to do a training class every quarter together. That's awesome. We can fill up an entire class just with people that we utilize. On top of that, we go to the range and we can work on team movements. We can take what we learn in classes, go to the range, work on it, get better at it and all of that, and work as a team, have team communications, team movements, all sorts of stuff, but do it as a team. And this whole step is a team. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is getting more people. Let's just say that Clover and Steve are both into this as well. So we look at that and say, we'll continue in just one second. Yeah. But let's just say that we have a bunch of people that want to be a Tier 9 operator. And it's a fun thing, but it's a serious thing also. So now I'm doing this here in my hometown. We've got 4, 8, 12, 16 people, whatever it is. Clover at his hometown has got 4, 8, 12, 16 people doing it in his hometown. And Steve's got out there in Arizona doing 4, 8, 12, 16 at that. And we have a bunch of people all over the country having 4, 8, 12, 16 people 4 times a year that are doing classes. Now we're starting to kind of spread the love of being proficient. And we're also talking about teamwork and team unity, working as a team. Then you start talking about if we get people, a little sects across the country that are doing this, then why wouldn't we go and get someone like Rob or Todd Fossey or Ron Holmes or Tonto or any of these guys that we know that are firearms instructors and say, okay, once a year, so we're doing this every quarter in our hometowns, but once a year, we're going to have an annual national meetup, and we'll find somewhere in the middle of the country, that somewhere in Missouri or Texas or somewhere that we can find land and someone to come out there. But all the Tier 9 operators across the country come together. And we have a weekend shoot, maybe down at Charlie's place. It would be awesome, Clover. Something like that. We do a weekend cooking out, barbecue, and being together as a group of people that enjoy this and learn and have a 1 or 2 day training club. We hire an instructor to come down and give 50 of us an instruction, a lesson or some kind of, cool thing, whatever it was, something that we haven't learned, or we do a shoot house together or something that we spread this. And then once a year we come together as the Tier 9 operators come all together and have a really good weekend. That's where I would love to see the training side of it. The third limb of this is content creators. And we talk about collaborating and promoting other people. The Tier 9 operators and from the content creator side of social media is we want to get a group of people. It's kind of what Clover's been doing. And that's kind of working the idea for this side of it. And other people, they have their little cliques and they promote each other's videos. But if we were serious about it, we can get a group of content creators, and not just about training, but doing different specific types of videos or whatever, and say, hey, there's 12 of us in the Tier 9 operators, and when someone puts out the video, then the other 11 are going to help promote it. It's just a collaboration. And we also, not only just promotion, but we also made within our own group do a collaboration video where pass the mag type stuff, or we all happen to go and get a similar firearm, or we're talking about concealed carry, for instance. Within our group, we can do what we carry. Hey, go check out Steve at Mr. Big Kid. This is what he's carrying this month, and this is what Clover's carrying, and kind of just do it within our group and say, if no one else wants to do it, that's fine. But within our group, we're here to help. So I know it sounds crazy. It's a lot of stuff to think about, but that's kind of where I'm at. And Kid and Clover, I don't know if this is something y'all are interested in, but that was kind of the idea of the Tier 9 operators. It's a multi-layer thing, but we're going to try to get a lot of stuff. But I know, Clover, you had a quick thought before you forget.
Yeah, I could mention that in a second. So with what you're talking here, it's one of the things to where, first of all, I would love to go back down to Charlie's. I think Rod is in on that. If we could, we talked about getting some people together and going back.
Get the stuff done. He's going to have the cabins and stuff there for
right. He feeds everybody. Actually, we're talking about me baking the dessert.
Man,
he's baking the desserts
too.
Charlie cooks the meals. I'll do the desserts. And
here you go.
Kind of what they were talking about. But it wouldn't take that many to get something, and I'm on board for that. What I would like to see, because you're talking about intermixing from a content creator, and that's kind of going to go into what my thoughts I had on training and incentives.
Yeah.
But from the content creator side, what I would like to see is if I am going to go to the sliding over the hood of a car crap, and experience that, then you guys are going to come to wilderness survival or hunter safety or a competition training, or bullseye competition, archery competition training, even
archery. I would love to do that. Absolutely.
So it be where yes, you've got all these different elements from these creators that do separate things, but each one at some point is going to step outside of their comfort zone, right? It's going to experience something new.
Here's an idea that's kind of a cool idea, and this is just starting. It's kind of madness happened in my head over the weekend, but it's always going to evolve. But what if we get like 10 people that say, "Hey, I'm in on this." We meet up once a year somewhere. But what if we do it something like every year? It's someone else's responsibility to come up with what we're going to do, where we're going to go. This year it's Clover Tech. Well, you know what? We're going to go out to Charlie's and we're going to do long range precision, and then we're also going to do a little bit of archery. Hey, whether you have ever done that stuff or not, you're in. And I love the fact of bushcraft. Absolutely, bushcraft skills are phenomenal. Survival. I mean, that's cool stuff, and like I said, and we do it all as a team. So you might be learning different things, but we're doing it in a team atmosphere, not say team building, but it's all going to be around people that are like, I love the idea of exposing us, or maybe we just say, hey, we're going to go down to Charlie's. We're going to find somewhere. What does everyone want to do? Or what has everyone never done before? And that could be something where
let's all go out one night. I probably got some avenues, to be able to equip 4, 6, maybe 8 people with thermal. So let's all go out one night and shoot some pigs in the face, right? A lot of people hadn't done that.
Absolutely.
But we're gonna bring one back to the camp. We're gonna eat it. And we're gonna eat it. We're gonna have some. Yeah, we're kind of
like we did at Charlie's.
Yeah, maybe
1 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, exactly right.
Next morning. I don't know if we did or not. I don't think we did the next morning.
To mention what I was going to say when we were talking about incentives and stuff like that. So here is with what you're proposing and that sort of thing. We completely glossed over. If you're out there and you already turn on a camera or a microphone or use the keyboard or whatever, if you get your voice out there, content creation in some way, shape, form, or fashion. It's really easy to go down, file a DBA, get an LLC, even a sole proprietor, whatever it might be. And then you can write off, even now, right now, today, you could write off training as part of an expense for your channel, for your brand, for your blog,
Right.
or whatever it is. So there are avenues and incentives if you just look for them.
No doubt. Now, Sandy, since it has not like a top shot, but that is interesting because I bet you that we could probably talk Dustin into finding a week or weekend that his camp isn't being utilized and actually doing some kind of a thing with an actual top shot champion. Just saying.
Yep.
I bet you he'd be more than happy to as we go on the weekend when his camp's not running or something, because he'd have all the lodging and everything available for us.
I could almost guarantee you we could make that happen.
Yeah. So that would be fun.
We'd have to get enough people on board with it. But
we have to get enough people, and it's always going to cost. But if we sit there and say, okay, guys, we're going to do this in July or August or September or October when it gets cooler, whatever it's going to be, we're going to give you 6 months so you can start saving up money, making sure your travel plans are available and all that. We're going to be boom, 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 boom. It's not going to be like, hey, next weekend, guys, we're doing this and I need $300 from you. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be, hey, we got plenty of time. But I think something like that, either Charlie, but I think Dustin's might be perfect because he's got a camp. And so he's got the cabins ready to go and they have food prep and all of that, where they say, in order to rent out this campsite for the week, we're going to need X amount of dollars. Mm-hmm. And let's say that number is $5,000. I don't know what it'll be. Let's say it's $5,000. Well, can we get 50 people to throw in $100? You know what I'm saying? I mean, split it up and say, if this is what it's going to be.
So I'm looking now on by the way, it's Camp His Way if anybody is not familiar with Dustin stuff. And I'm looking now and basically
do they rent it out? Is it on their website?
Right now the marksman camp weekends that he already does with youth are $300 a participant.
Okay.
Basically, $320 for over 14. It says here, so $300.
Now, how long is that camp?
That's a weekend, so I think it's a Friday, Saturday, Saturday, Sunday. But no, it's 2 day. I'm looking here. It's 2 days.
And that's probably what we'll be coming on a Friday night, leave on a Sunday afternoon type.
But it is I mean, you're looking at
you're talking lodging, food,
it's all inclusive. So if if you was to translate that over and we were able to talk him into some type of a weekend like we're talking about, based on the rates, I mean, $320 a person's not altogether horrible. And for content creators,
let's say you're going to spend $500 for a 2-day training camp, and that doesn't include lodging,
and remember too that if we're talking content creators, it's a write-off.
It's a write-off. But imagine what we're going to do during the day, those 2 days, doing all sorts of different stuff. But at night, being able to collaborate, doing a bonfire and hanging out. I mean, there's so many different things that we could do, but it's all going to be within, and like I said, I'm not saying that it needs to happen, but that's one of my goals that I would like to see happen is turning our community into an actual community and have a training side of it where we do a training, but also a fellowship. I'm not saying fellowship with the Lord and all that, but a fellowship with each other and being an actual community I think is really, really important because I think that could be really, really fun. And if you can do it in a fun way and sit there and say, Dustin, let's have some fun for 2 days. Like I said, he's got these cabins. I mean, it's like a summer camp for kids. So it's going to be like not bunks. I mean, not like tents and all that. It's going to be like a fun, cool, like summer camp setting that we'll have a good time. But I think that, if we know what the cost is going to be and we know, okay, it's going to be in October or whatever, we've got 6-8 months, a year to plan on it, then here's the price. We need to know by August 1st if you're going with a deposit of some sort, whatever. We'll get into those details, but having that idea of having a yearly meetup that involves training, but involves collaboration and all of that, I think would be an absolute blast. That's kind of where that was. Now, a lot of people thought I was going to be talking about a militia, and this is not at all a militia. No. This is more or less, like I said, at the local and all of that side, it's getting a group of people that would like to go get training, but want to hold each other accountable, do everything as a fire team, a 4-man fire team or whatever. We're going to go training once a quarter and hold each other accountable to go get training and all that. And then on the collaboration side, obviously, that would be a blast to have a yearly meetup somewhere and just do that. Steve, is that something you'd be interested in?
Oh, absolutely. Man, you got me all excited about this too. I love the idea of the retreat more than anything. I do like the idea of the training too. But being able to all get together and do some kind of a cool training like that, whether we go to, was it Front Sight Academy, I think is one of them, or just stuff like that. I mean, it's very exciting stuff. And the whole summer camp thing, sounds great, man.
Yeah. 223. Who knows? But I mean, we were talking about in Texas right now because we know it's in the middle of the country pretty much, and you can fly into Dallas from anywhere. But we also know between Charlie and Dustin Ellerman, we know people that have land and academies or facilities that can hold a lot of people, and we're hoping if we can get 20, 30, 50, I mean, it'll also be 50, but 20, 30 people, that would be amazing. So right now we're talking about Texas just because it's in the middle of the country, and we also have contacts that have facilities that could host this. Should we do that? So that's where Texas, but if someone knows, if somewhere out in Arizona, obviously, Florida, somewhere that is a gun-friendly state, obviously, yeah, we're all for anything, really. Now, someone's asking what my thoughts are on the 3% groups or the militia. Depends. We have 2 here in Arkansas, and I was asked to join one. That was a year or 2. I don't remember. Was it last year or the year before? This whole 2020 year is kind of throwing me off. I'm not sure if it was last year or 2018, but I was asked to at least come in to a meeting and observe this militia. But there's 2 of them here in Arkansas. One of them is kind of what normal people think of a militia. Just going to say, they do their thing. That's not something that I'm down with, or I have no problem them doing, but that's not something I'm into it. The other militia is doing what I like to do is they meet like once a month on a Saturday or Sunday, and they go camp out and they do training. They train together. They work on team communication, team movements, but they also will do another week in a month. They'll go out and they'll do fundraising for something in some towns. They'll do a lot of parades. If there's natural disasters especially in this state, they have a lot of tornadoes. And a tornado hits, they're the first ones there to bring food and water and help with the search and rescue and all that. So they work along with, fire and search and rescue and sheriff's departments and all that, but it's basically just a group of people that like to train and be together. So if it's something like that, I'm all for those. I'm all for the other militia that might be scary to some people. That's not my gig. That's not my thing. But I'm all for if they want to do that, then by all means, go for it. But I think that the ones that are more productive are the ones that aren't trying to overthrow a government or anything like that. They're trying to be part of the community, and they just happen to train and work together as a team and all that, but they do a lot of positive things. I'm all for that. Had I had the time, I might have even thought about joining this one, but I don't have enough time to do what I want to do, much less anything else new. Kid Clover, what do you think? What are your thoughts on militias?
I think for me, to be honest, it kind of depends on what that militia stands for. There's a lot of militias. Right. So the classic American band of brothers grouping up to train in case something happens where they need to be a militia, that's great. I'm totally supportive of that. To be honest, I'm supportive of any reason to bear arms in general. There's groups out there that I don't like the fact they have guns, but I fully support them having them because that is what it is. So I don't think I'd personally ever join one. Well, I can't say that. It's really a time commitment for me. And that's the only negative thing I have about any local militias here. I don't know if I want to go patrol the border. The desert's really hot. To be honest, I hate filming gun videos in the summertime here already.
I can imagine.
And I'm not wearing any kind of, tactical gear. So, but yeah, I support their efforts and what they do. So
Speedo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, those tan lines are rough.
Whew, yeah. Between you and we're going to try to get Midnight Range out there. Between you and Midnight, the eating at the tier 9 operators get together will be phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, between the two of you. So
I'm in.
I think it'd be fun. Like I said, it's just an idea that I had. I wanted to do it on a couple different levels of the training side, but also the collaborator side, and say, look, we got to help each other out. I'm not really sure. Okay, I have no idea. I don't know if Clover's back. He said he had to step away for a second. I don't know if he's back yet or not, but I don't think he is. He could be off mute.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So we had a question earlier from someone that asked your opinion on the 3% militia groups, and we both said the same thing. Is I
don't know what a 3% militia group necessarily is, but
well, when I hear 3% groups or the militia from that standpoint is preparing to overthrow government, all that stuff. And we were talking about, and Steve and I were talking about the militias that get together, train together, have community presence to do a lot of help with natural disasters. I'm all for that. I'm all for the other one. I would never join that one. But what are your thoughts on militias in general?
I'm okay with the idea. I don't know that I would ever join one. And if I did, it would be one of and there's a couple of different ones here in Texas. It would definitely be one of the ones that was more of a first responder type setup.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I was saying. When Arkansas had asked me to join, that's kind of what they were. They worked with fire, search and rescue, sheriff's departments and all that. Absolutely.
But I'll be blatantly honest. I spent 20 years in the volunteer fire department and really not interested in that type of thing. I'm just not.
So I got a text from Midnight Range, and he says, knowing his weird sense of humor, he says, "Can we call the militia Etheridge?"
Bet.
Good Lord.
Waka waka waka.
Yeah. So not the good Lord. And then out in the chat, he says, "I guess that's a no." That would be a no. And I know that like Nighthawk Medic, I think he's involved with a group of people that do a lot of training together and have the community presence and all of that, first responders and all that, with him being obviously his background. So yeah, like I said, I'm all for anyone doing whatever they want. Some of that stuff's just not for me. That's just not me. But I know a lot of people were asking and wanting to know what the tier 9. And I think a lot of them thought this wasn't going to be a militia, and it's not going to be a militia. It's just going to be a group of people that locally like to train, get together, do some stuff. Nationally, get together, do some training. Be awesome. And then obviously the creators having a little group of people that do a little support and collaboration together and all of that. But the one that we talked about the most tonight is the one thing that I didn't really think of the hardest, but it sounds the most fun, is a national get together once a year. The more we're talking about it, that sounds like so much fun, is to get together once a year and have a weekend and all that. That would just be so much fun.
Oh yeah.
All right. So we're a little over an hour and a half. So, there's a bunch of people out there. It says, count me in for sure. And then we'll be putting more information in out there and we'll see if Clover can get a hold of Dustin, maybe after the holidays or over with, and see kind of what the schedule for the camp is, and see what it's going to cost to rent the camp out, or a portion of the camp, or whatever the options are. And we also maybe talk with Charlie and see what something that they could do down there as well. So I think that this is something that if we do it the right way, we might actually be able to get some industry people that we know that would come down. Obviously Rod and Shelley would, but I think there'd be people that we all know that would probably maybe want to jump on board and have a really good time with it. having a good time, is what it's all about. So there's a lot of people that are out there that are saying that they're in. So we'll put some more information out there. But as far as the collaboration, that can start whenever we want. It's just kind of saying, hey, we're gonna help each other promote their content, push it out for them, and all of that. Be a support system. More importantly, on the local side of training. There was one guy that sent me an email that saw the post, and he said, "Is there going to be a patch involved? Because there's a patch involved, then I'm in." We can probably. I have come up with I have come up with a logo, so we might have to get a patch if that's something that people want. Then we'll get a patch. Budget says it's only cost $350 round trip to fly from Cleveland to Waco, Texas. This is doable for me. There you go. Once again, we're not going to sit there and Tactical Dad Bod says that would be. It sounds like an absolute blast. And we need to do this. So I'll get started on some stuff, and I might have to enlist a couple of people that would be willing to help out with this. But I do believe that we can make this happen. Definitely think we can make this happen for sure. But the patches are a thing, then we can do some patches. It doesn't matter to me, but like I said, I thought that was interesting. This is, if it's got a patch involved, then I'm in. Well, we'll make patches available if that's what it takes, so be it.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was just agreeing with you, Zal.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So we're a little over an hour and a half, so I want to start kind of closing the doors. Steve, I want you to go ahead and plug. I know you got some really cool stuff food-wise that is coming out right now, especially with the holiday season, but plug your channel, where they find you, whatever you got coming up, any projects you got working on.
Yeah, well, right now we have I should be coming out with it on Sunday. I'll be doing smoked beef ribs, another grill comparison between the pellet grill and the offset smoker. And then I'm hoping to do some shooting this weekend to make videos for the following weekend. So kind of alternate the barbecue and firearm stuff. That being said, you guys can go ahead and find me on YouTube, just Mr. Big Kid, all one word. Or you can find me on Parler, The Real Mr. Big Kid. I guess someone else beat me to it. Punk. And yeah, and then on Instagram, AMR Big Kid. So firearms and barbecue, and that's what the channel's all about.
There you go. I just got a big, long text from someone. Let me read this real quick. I don't know if this is a question. He wrote a damn novel. I don't know if this is a question for the show or is this something he's sending to me. Okay, we can do this real quick if you guys want to. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but let's just say the question is what are your thoughts on training for law enforcement? Do they need better training? Maybe that's Sarge or someone else. I can tell you that my local sheriff's department, which is run by a sheriff who's a good friend of mine, prior to him being here, they did the absolute minimum that the state required for law enforcement training, which was basically they qualified once a year, but they didn't have to qualify every year. They could qualify every other year if they had a waiver for 1 year that they missed or whatever. So, I mean, it was very lax. He came in and they're doing a couple times a year internal qualification. He does training with them all over the state doing different training. So I do believe that law enforcement need to be trained. I think that there needs to be part of the budget that goes in for training. I think it has to be something that training is required for law enforcement. Why wouldn't it be? I think if you're there to protect and serve, then you need to know how to protect and serve. So I'm not saying that they don't, but I'm saying that I think that all law enforcement do need maybe advanced trainings at some point. What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Yep. And I think it goes beyond just firearms training, but just other techniques, it's hard because you have the media that's pushing their own narrative. And I don't want to get into the whole politics of this question at all, but I want our boys in blue to be safe out there. So.
Yeah. I tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to put my email out there. It's pretty simple. It's ghosttactical@yahoo.com. That is one of the emails that are out to the general public. If you're interested in the Tier 9 operators, which is the training side of it, or the collaborator side, or the yearly meetup, whatever it is, if you're interested in this project at all, send me an email in the next couple of days so I can kind of start collecting names and emails of people that are interested. Whether you're here live now, watching in replay, listening in podcast form, ghosttactical@yahoo.com. Send me a note saying, if you don't want to use your real name, that's cool. Whatever screen name, whatever you want to be called, say, hey, this is JMA or this is whoever, Tactical Dad Bot or whatever. I'm interested in the Tier 9 operators with the meetup and all that. So if you're interested in any portion of this, send me an email in the next week so I can start collecting a database of names and people that are interested. And also let me know where you are. What state you're in. You don't have to tell me what town, but just send me what state you're in. So I'm going to start a spreadsheet. JMA says, can I, you just called me. I didn't know that I didn't hear a missed call. Did I have a missed call? I don't have anything that says I missed a call, but JMA, if you want to call, you can, or call me after the show. Whatever. If you want to call now on the show, we can do that. But if you want to call me after the show, you have my number. Call me sometime, and we'll talk about it. So yeah, if you're interested in the whole Tier 9 operator project, send me an email, ghosttactical@yahoo.com, and we'll get her going. Clover, I know that you've got a bunch of stuff going on, different podcasts, different videos. You've been writing a lot for Gear Report.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
a lot more than we have. Neither one of us have been writing a lot.
I know, right?
Lately. You've done a couple lately, so kind of plug where you're doing, what projects you've got going on as well.
Gear-report.com. People can check that out if and they want to. And then and then the normal videos and podcasts and other things. I'm working on a thing with some Texas legislation and this whole notion that Texas is turning blue. And been working on that the last few days. My brain and my eyeballs is about done. Actually working on some graphics and different things right now while I'm on the podcast with you for that. So hopefully
we keep you so entertained that you're doing something else to stay entertained while we're doing this.
I mean, it's
I'm just joking.
Not that difficult.
I do that all the time when I'm on other people's podcasts. I'm doing something,
So, but yeah.
Gotta multitask, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, go check out Mr. Big Kid. Go check out Clover Tech. They're both doing great work. I'm going to say something about Kid that your camera, and I don't know what camera you're using, but your quality of filming is unbelieliable.
I appreciate that.
It's phenomenal. It's one of the best in our entire niche. Your filming and your production level is crazy good.
He's one of those 4K snobs.
Yeah,
he's like a 4K drone, I think, probably.
I do have one of those. I'm all bashful now. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate that. I use the Panasonic GH5 is my main workhorse. Okay. So it does 4K at 60 frames. And I do my main filming in 24p. So it gives it that cinematic look. And then if I do something like I'm shooting on camera, I will bump it to 60 FPS.
Sure.
And then that smooth, buttery, slow motion, using a DSLR type removable lens, you can get that cool bokeh with a blurry background and super sharp in focus. So I got my buddy, and he's the one that filmed my intro for my channel. So he's coming back out in January, and we're going to film some fun 50 cal footage too.
Nice.
So
nice. Yeah, it's glad, it's, yeah, just, I know that your quality, your production quality is fantastic. So
thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. 223. And you're getting close up there. I think Clover's getting close up there. He's tracking along. He's almost to 5. And you're getting close to 10. Is that right?
Yeah, should I think I'm on schedule to hit maybe about 9,000 mid-December. So
Okay,
yeah,
so maybe the first of the year around 10,000.
yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Nice.
So I have good days and bad days, but with the holidays coming in, the barbecue content is really doing well now. So my sub counts are slowly creeping up again in my daily sub. So yeah, it's great though. I love it. Just gotta ignore the trolls.
That's part of it. You really haven't arrived until you get a troll. So I mean,
Oh yeah.
And I'll make a video knowing and actually sometimes I'll make a video for trolls. It's wonderful. Like you're just waiting for it. You're just like, this is gonna be epic.
That troll bait.
Oh man, I love it. And I love messing with them. And a lot of times I'll just ignore them. There's some of them that I'll have thousands and thousands of comments. I can't do it, but I'll pick out every now and then, pick out like the best of that week and say, okay, all right, let's do this. And game on, So I love
I've been tempted to collect all the bad comments and just the rude troll stuff. And
sure.
Yeah, that would be a fun video.
That's part of it. I want to kind of talk a little bit about with SHOT Show being canceled. Clover and I have talked about this on multiple shows, but with SHOT Show being canceled and all of that, I know that you went last year. I'm assuming you were planning on going. I think you were, because you were going to be going to range day.
Yep.
But what are your plans now? Like, is there an industry thing, or what's your next kind of thing that you're looking forward to going to, assuming they don't cancel it?
Well, there's a Arizona 2A rally that happened just after SHOT Show. I went last year after SHOT Show, and that was a really good time. I don't know. I imagine that's still going to happen, with the most of the people that support the 2A rallies kind of don't really care so much about the shutdowns and stuff like that. I don't know the proper way to put it, but that'll probably still happen, I imagine. Other than that, there's this tier 9 operator camp out thing. So I'm looking forward to that.
We could turn this into
I'm just saying.
Like an idea that I had, like literally, it's going to sound crazy, but I was literally lying in bed Sunday night and I had this, I was like, you know what? Like, I want to start doing something like this. I want this to be a thing.
Yep.
And I never even thought that would, like I said, who knows what's going to happen or not, but it sounds like there's people. I mean, hell, there are people out there already checking out flights and all that. So,
true.
I guess this thing could happen. So I think that we need to start kind of looking into what's going to happen with this. But no, it's be fun. I think it'll be something kind of what Rob was saying earlier when he went down to the Epic shoot, and he only went because there have been no industry things, and he hadn't seen some of these people since January. And we didn't have USCCA this year. We didn't have NRAM this year, so a lot of people haven't seen each other in a year, basically. And you want to see people, and you miss seeing people. And we talk all the time online and all that, but being able to shake someone's hand and give them a hug or whatever, it's not the same,
Yeah, and I saw Sandhill Shooter. He was saying Top Shot for creators. Imagine a Top Shot competition with all of us. Battle of the creators.
That's what I'm saying, and that could be a blast. I mean, we could have part of the train. We could do something like, okay, we're going to train on Saturday, but Sunday, we'll do a barbecue, a cookout, bonfire Saturday night, and have a good time. Sunday, we're going to have Dustin put us through a Top Shot thing or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Is that an airsoft back there? Who are you talking to? I think he's talking to you in the back.
That guy right there. No, that's not an airsoft.
Not an airsoft.
That one punches a little harder than an airsoft.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, you and Clover both have 50s. So that's just one of those things where we might have to have a little 50 shootout,
I'll bring it. I would love
and
to
I
bring
could
it
probably
down.
borrow one from Charlie if we go down to Charlie's. So we should have like a 50 shootout. That'd be kind of cool. Call it 50th night or something.
Charlie got, remember too, Charlie's got 2,000 yards.
He's got 2,000 yards out there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That could be really fun.
Yep. I'd love to bring it down.
But yeah, and like I said, budgets, this could be a huge thing for creators. It could be. And it might be one of those things where we just, like I said, it's already sound like we need to start doing this. So I'm excited. Especially now, like I said, we haven't seen each other in a while. A lot of us haven't seen each other in a year. So yeah, we'll start doing that. But like I said, send me an email, ghosttactical@yahoo.com. We'll start a database going and let me know where you are. What state, I should say. Don't tell me what hometown if you don't want, but tell me what state you're in so I can kind of start doing that. And leave me your email, possibly a phone number if you want to give that information out, what state you are, and if you want to give your real name. Like I said, you don't have to give any information that you don't want out there. But send me an email if you're interested in any of this stuff, and we'll get going on it. But it could be fun. It could be really, really fun. And like I said, if we do this right way, we could probably get some industry people definitely involved with this. So we'll have fun, guys. It's been almost 2 hours. Thank you so much for watching live. If you're out there, if you're watching this in replay or listening in audio podcast form, God bless you. Thank you so much. Thanks to all the patrons out there. We love you guys. Thank you to everyone who sent messages to me for the Marine Corps birthday and for Veterans Day. It's awesome. Thank you so much. More importantly, guys, get out there, shoot, be more proficient with your firearms. Take someone new with you to the range that might be a new gunner or have never shot a gun. Give them a fun, exciting, safe way to learn how to shoot. You never know, they might become allies of ours. And while you're at it, go ahead and turn your camera on. We need all the 2A pro gun cameras that we can in our internet sphere out there. So go check out Big Kid. Go check out Clover. Go check out Rob Pincus. Everyone knows Rob, but go check out Rob over at the PDN Network, ICE Training. He's everywhere, anywhere, WTTA.org. Great friends of ours, Mike Sedini, Rob Pincus, all of them. Phenomenal. But thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon, and we'll just see you soon. Semper Fi.